A warm welcome to Aviation this week on Channels Television. I'm Bukola Joe Oketumbi. The International Air Transport Association's new data indicates the impact of COVID-19 on Africa's aviation industry and economies has worsened sharply since the previous assessment in April. Here in Nigeria, 40 days after the resumption of domestic flights, statistics on passenger traffic continue to plummet, fueling symptoms of collapse for airlines. Even so, there are more seeming headaches for carriers already struggling to navigate around increasing cost of operation for aircraft, the threat of industrial harmony, and fluctuations in the exchange rates. On the program, airline survival tactics is our focus. Plus, Nigeria announces August 29th resumption date for international flights.
No airline or air travel market has been left untouched by the coronavirus pandemic, which brought to a halt international scheduled passenger services. But now that flights have opened up globally, airlines say it's a long haul to recovery.
We are still facing a very difficult situation. So we are asking governments to maintain their financial support packages or their bailout or all the instruments that they have put in place to support our industry that are still and even more than ever necessary for our survival. First of all. Secondly, we forecast probably a significant restructuring in this industry and perhaps some additional bankruptcies.
With limited cash resources remaining, airlines, regulators and governments are having to look at unprecedented moves to keep the industry afloat as most resume local and international flights. Starting in Hong Kong, Cathay Pacific Airways say it's not expecting a meaningful recovery in passenger demand for some time due to the coronavirus pandemic after reporting a record $1.27 billion first half-year loss. Cathay Pacific expects passenger capacity to operate at around 7% of normal in August and September, down from an earlier forecast of up to 10% as travel restrictions still persist in some destinations. The airline, which received a $5 billion rescue package led by the Hong Kong government, has so far refrained from large-scale job cuts, but has warned it is reviewing all aspects of its business model. For Virgin Australia, cutting a third of its workforce, around 3,000 people, as part of an overhaul, and will now become a domestic and short-haul international Boeing 737 operator under prospective new owner Bain Capital is its plan. Virgin Chief Executive Paul Scorer said the airline was renegotiating costs with lessors and suppliers as it targets the value for money market for business and leisure travelers. Bain is the winning bidder in late June of an auction that followed the airline's entry into voluntary administration in April.
Today, as hard as it is to ask 3,000 of our people to leave the business, it does secure a future for 6,000 of our current workforce. We have every intention of making sure that we are a strong and fierce competitor. We do have an absolute intention to re-enter the long-haul international market to Los Angeles and Tokyo when the market does so, and we're in the process of considering what type of aircraft we'll take forward. But in the interim term, because we don't know how long it will take to recover, we will have impacts coming from our long-haul international business.
Here in Nigeria, it's more than a month since domestic flights took to the skies and passenger traffic has not been encouraging.
Actually, we expected that the passenger figure will be low, and that was what happened. We started slowly with about 40%, less than 40% actually, load factor. But it's gradually picking up, and I'm pleasantly surprised that we are now going into about 50% load factor on most of the flights. And I believe the flying public have confidence in the protocols that we have put in place in the carriage of passengers in our airplane. And I think it has played a big role
One of Nigeria's leading carrier, Air Peace, has reduced its flights from 120 daily to about 20 flights on account of the sharp drop in passenger traffic on its major routes. For Arik Air, the story is the same. Dana Air is not left out.
We've had to remove some of our routes. We're not flying to everywhere at the moment. We have about 7 aircraft on ground, not about talking about the one outside, but some on ground, and not all are flying, because we have to look at the load factor before you can fly to a particular destination. If not, you can't be burning fuel going to a particular where you don't have passengers. So we've had to cut down operations. So it's going to take some time for recovery. And we're also saying if the support from government can come as soon as possible, yes, definitely, yeah, we can recover as soon as possible. But as it stands now, not really.
Low passenger figures is not the only challenge. Airlines face the threat of industrial disharmony and fluctuations in the exchange rate, threatening the already fragile industry.
It is quite a big challenge for the airlines, not only aero contractors, but for all the airlines, because there is the main component of an airline operation is the cost of the dollar. The cost of the dollar has been increasing, and we have not increased the cost of the ticket, and our spare parts are in dollars. Everything that we do in aviation is connected to the foreign exchange. We have the maintenance, repair, and overhaul, and we have the airline. So the maintenance, repair, and overhaul is thriving. We have all the airlines in the country, and even within the West Africa and Central Africa are bringing their airplanes for us to maintain, to do heavy checks for them. And with that, we are generating more revenue. So with that, I don't have to reduce the number of personnel in the maintenance, repair, and overhaul organization that we have. So it means that we will keep the numbers for the maintenance, even maybe increase, because we are having increased patronage for the maintenance. And then with that, we can also subsidize for the airline.
Experts say indigenous carriers may be in for tougher times unless the government comes to their rescue by implementing the bailout package it promised during the outbreak of COVID-19 as a stimulus package to airlines already tottering on the brink of collapse.
All kinds of palliatives have been rolled out for airlines out there. I am aware that government has spoken about palliative. I am not aware if action has been taken. I do know that some of the airlines have filled application forms submitted to central bank for one palliative or the other, whether it's going to be loan at single digit interest rate and so on and so forth. What kind of support have our airlines got?
Although the domestic sector is grappling with after effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, many expect that when international flights open, it will act as a necessary buffer to the local sector and in tune impact on airline financials.
I'm quite excited about it, first and foremost, because it's been quite some time now. Nobody is being able to fly except those who are coming on evacuation. And so, it will be quite exciting to the airlines too, because everybody has been down, looking up, and the industry has been down. And if there's anything that will wake up the industry, we are all for it. All that we are praying is that all the protocols about COVID-19 should be observed. The truth of it is that this industry will never get back to pre-COVID-19 status until after 2 years. That's the truth. And after about 2 years, before it will start getting back to pre-COVID-19 situation. But the fact is that if we don't start, we will not begin to build up. And the end of the year is coming. People will come in gradually, little by little, people will be coming in until they are comfortable that there's no spike arising from the operations. Once there's no spike arising from the operation, and people are comfortable that they can get to the other destination without all the issues about quarantine, I think people will begin to pick up. The traffic will begin to pick up. It will be slow. It will not be as fast as people would think. Well, I don't know, first and foremost, whether that is something that will give a spike to domestic traffic, because I think there are two issues affecting domestic operations. First is the people are still not comfortable about the COVID issue. But the next thing is the finances. There's no money in the system. You can see that every place the economy is down, and if there's no expendable funds in people's pockets, they are not quick to fly. That's the problem. It's financial and it is health also. So these two things are the factors impeding the spike in domestic traffic. So giving palliatives, the airlines need palliatives. I have thought that the government that had made the promise would dispense this quickly. But government has its own problems also. Maybe government needs its own palliative, but from where? I don't know. For the economy to get up, the airlines are so critical in contributing to the economy being kick-started properly. And so the palliatives should be considered with a sense of urgency. I do know that the minister is doing a lot, but I also know that our country has quite some challenges. It's going to be extremely difficult for the airlines if palliatives don't come. They will suffer the same fate that airlines are suffering outside the country. We've seen airlines that have shut down. We've seen airlines that have reduced their operations, the size of the operations, up to a quarter of what it was pre-COVID. And we've seen airlines that have dropped most of their equipment, most of the aircraft, particularly 747s, are virtually out of the system. And that's what is going to happen. But we should be extremely careful in our country, because if the airlines collapse, it will be devastating. That's why we must quickly rush to rescue them by giving them the palliatives. If the palliatives don't come, it will be very difficult for the airlines. And if it's very difficult for the airlines operations give sustenance to the parastatals and to the chain. In the chain, the airlines are critical in the whole aviation business chain. And so if they're not there, the chain will get into a problem.
When Aviation This Week returns, Newsflash is up next. Do join us again.
Nigeria will reopen its airports for international flights beginning on August the 29th. The airports have been closed since March 23rd to all but essential international flights as part of the country's efforts to combat the new coronavirus. According to the Minister of Aviation, all evacuation flights will end on the 25th of August, adding that the airports have reached advanced stages of preparedness. International flights will commence with the Lagos and Abuja airports.
International flights will resume from the 29th of August 2020. It will start just like we did with the domestic. It will start with Lagos and Abuja. So what would happen is that very close to your departure date, as much as close to your departure date, you will take a test, COVID test, where you're coming from. There will also be a portal that will be open. Prior to your departure, you will pay through that platform. You pay through that platform for a test to be done here in Nigeria day 8 after your arrival.
The International Air Transport Association's new data show Africans' aviation would suffer job losses to the tune of 3.5 million. This is more than half of the region's 6.2 million aviation-related employment and 400,000 more than the previous estimate, according to the body. The umbrella body, which represents 290 airlines, said full-year 2020 traffic was expected to plummet by 54% compared to 2019. It previously estimated a fall of 51%. A long queue at Frankfurt Airport as people arriving from Spain wait to be tested for coronavirus. Germany has imposed mandatory tests for holidaymakers returning from high-risk countries in order to slow the spread of infections as the holiday season kicks into high gear. Nearly all of Spain, including the tourist island of Mallorca, was declared a coronavirus risk region by Germany following a spike in cases there. Designations of risk regions are typically followed by the German Foreign Ministry warning against tourist travel to those areas and mean people returning from them face a coronavirus test or 2 weeks compulsory quarantine. Israel is preparing for direct flights over Saudi Arabia to the United Arab Emirates as part of its normalization deal with the UAE. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced that the U.S.-sponsored deal, whose implementation could reshape Middle East politics from the Palestinian issue to the fight against Iran, the UAE would only be the third Arab state in more than 70 years to establish relations with Israel.
We are working now on enabling direct flights over Saudi Arabia between Tel Aviv, Dubai and Abu Dhabi. It is a very short flight, about 3 hours, like to Rome. But it will transform Israeli aviation and the Israeli economy with tremendous scope for tourism for both sides and gigantic scope for investments. The people in the Emirates are extremely interested in massive investments in Israel, in technology. Dubai has the largest free trade zones in the world. They go there with raw materials and produce there very inexpensive goods. And now these goods will, under the peace agreement, reach the state of Israel and lower the prices of products for the citizens of Israel. The cost of living will be lower and the quality of life will be higher because it will be possible to import more inexpensive products. This is the direct result of this agreement.
Netanyahu, while briefing at Tel Aviv's Ben Gurion Airport on plans for expanding flight activity curtailed by the coronavirus pandemic, gave no time frame for the opening of an air link with the Gulf Arab country. Soaking in your destination without ever leaving Tokyo is what Japanese businessman Katsuo Inoue did for this year's summer vacation. Inoue said he enjoyed the trimmings of a first-class cabin and the sights of Florence and Rome. Inoue and his wife flew as clients of Tokyo entertainment company First Airlines, which is tapping into a growing virtual reality travel for Japanese holidaymakers grounded by coronavirus travel restrictions.
I
often go overseas for business, but I haven't been to Italy. Although I saw it virtually only, my impression was rather good because I could get an actual sense of seeing things there.
Grounded travelers sit in first-class seats in a mock jetliner cabin where they are served in-flight meals and drinks with aircraft exterior views of passing clouds and the plane taking off projected on the side for a simulated experience. Virtual reality goggles provide further immersive tours at destinations including Paris, New York, Rome, Hawaii, as well as Italy's cities of culture. At First Airlines, where passengers are even given a pre-flight safety demonstrations with a life vest and oxygen mask, Bookings were up about 50% since the pandemic began.
There are customers who chose us because they couldn't travel overseas due to coronavirus. There are also customers who used to go to Hawaii every year, but now they can't do that, so they come here to enjoy a trip to Hawaii. We are seeing a sharp increase in such customers.
First Airlines started business in 2016, aiming to provide a virtual travel experience with low cost and targeting those who didn't have much time to travel.
Before we go, the Asaba International Airport in Delta State has resumed flight operations after 5 months owing to the coronavirus pandemic, which paralyzed business and socio-economic activities across the globe. Passengers expressed their joy over the development, but believe airline operators must adopt the social distance rule to complement the efforts of government.
There should be also social distance measures in the flights, maybe skipping a seat. But if that will include that will bring about increasing the fare, maybe most people might not welcome that. It might not be good. But if maybe the government could, or maybe the individual agents, the transporters could still come into this, maybe find a way and solve this for us.
I've been traveling since August, like starting of August. I've used the Warrior and other places, and they're really doing well because I didn't expect this. Trust me. Like while you're entering, they have to sanitize your luggage, you wash your hands, you use the sanitizers, and you still come in and they still do the same thing. I think if there's something like COVID at this period, we should be spaced on the seats. Because other airlines I've using were always jam-packed, like it has to be the 3 seats. So I don't know if how area is going to be, but that's the only thing I can say, if they're also going to do that, because it's necessary and better we still do the spacing stuff.
The state government is optimistic that measures put in place, which is in line with the NCDC and NCAA guidelines, will ensure that aviation does not become a vector for the spread of the virus.
We also appreciate the NCAA for also appreciating the good work the state has done in ensuring that we meet up with the protocol well established by both the NCAA and the NCDC. And so, to that extent, we call on Deltans and indeed all users of this airport to take advantage. Good enough, we'll have more flights that will be coming into this airport. Ibom Air will resume flights on this airport. Of course, you know we have always had Asman and Airpeace, and this is Aero. We're also looking forward to having Arik back to this airport.
Local agriculture export just got a boost as the Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Export Promotion Council, Mr. Segun Awolowo, asked stakeholders to ensure the cargo aircraft that bring imports into the country do not return empty. He added that the federal government is ready to change the situation by partnering with private investors to develop the economy. The agency also added that it's collaborating with state governments to develop at least one agricultural product that can be exported by air.
To all parts of Africa.
This is where we take a bow on the show. Thank you so much for staying with us. From the production crew here, it's bye for now. I'm Bukola Joe Oketumbi.